Alright, so man, day 2 of the NBA. Now, this is gonna be try to be going quickly through this because a lot of games did happen yesterday. I need to make sure you guys subscribe to the channel down below. I need you to hit that like button because it's very important. So make sure you guys do that. And without further ado, we're gonna go quickly through all the games that happened yesterday. First up was the Chicago Bulls visiting the Charlotte Hornets. For this game, I actually picked the Hornets. For all the teams yesterday, I'll go through them. My predictions basically were Charlotte versus Chicago. I said Charlotte would win. Indiana versus Detroit. I said Indiana would win. Orlando versus Cleveland. I said Orlando would win. Philadelphia versus Boston. I said Philly would win. Brooklyn versus Minnesota. I said Brooklyn would win. Miami versus Memphis. I said Miami would win. Dallas versus Washington. I picked Dallas. San Antonio versus New York. I picked San Antonio. Utah versus OKC. I picked Utah. Phoenix versus Sacramento. I picked Sacramento, the away team. And Portland versus Denver. I picked Denver, the away team. So, kind of going with all home teams here, but I picked a couple away teams just because, I just wanted to throw something in there, see if that could be beneficial. But let's go to this game, all right? So the Charlotte Hornets squeaked by the Chicago Bulls. Yes, the Bulls blew a 10-point lead. Yes, I'm pretty upset about it. The leading scorer for the Chicago Bulls, my guy, Lauri Markkanen, on my fantasy team. Pretty good that I picked him up. 35 points, 17 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. And he was pretty good throughout this entire game. A lot of points right there, so that's pretty good. And on Charlotte, leading scorer was P.J. Washington, who had 27 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 1 block. Pretty good stat line right there. So, like I said, Hornets, they overcame a big deficit. They were up by 16 points in the second quarter. And then Chicago came back. They had a 10-point lead halfway through the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden they blew it. So, that's with that game. So, pretty much I didn't like it. I was watching it at one of my events. So, yeah, I'm not really happy about that. I wish I could say I was happy, but don't at me on this one, boys. Anyways, the next game we're going to be talking about are the Detroit Pistons versus the Indiana Pacers. The Detroit Pistons won 119-110 over the Pacers. So, yeah, the Pacers had a 10-point lead. That's when they led in the fourth quarter at the end of it. But the Pacers had a 9-point lead, and then they blew it. Leading scorers for the Pistons, Andre Drummond, who had 32 points, 23 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 4 blocks. A pretty overall great game from that man. And for the Pacers, Domantas Sabonis was the leading scorer. He had 13 rebounds along with that, 2 assists, and 27 points. So pretty good job from Domantas Sabonis of the Indiana Pacers. I believe they're still missing their main guy, Victor Oladipo. So that's pretty much within that. So hopefully Oladipo comes back and gets healthy, and so that we can see him back in action. Let's move on to the Orlando Magic taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Magic won 94-85 over those pesky Cavaliers because, of course, they stink. Looking at the matchup here, Cleveland led by 2 points in the first quarter, obviously. And then Orlando was up by 20 at the end of the second quarter. Pretty much want to say that, Orlando did win the game by 9 points. They should have won the game by like 40. But looking at the box scores here, Cleveland's main scorer, well, actually they had 2 high scorers. First one is Tristan Thompson, who had 16 points, 11 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 block. Colin Sexton was the other one at 16 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. And for Orlando, their leading scorer was Nikola Vucevic, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. So overall, pretty good stat line from both teams. Magic just had a lot better play, and they did really good, so that's a pretty good job for them. Next game we got to go to is an overtime thriller. Brooklyn versus Minnesota. Obviously, you heard the news. Minnesota beat him 127-126. Kyrie Irving missed a game-winning fadeaway. And I saw this play. I saw this play live as it was happening on the TV in the bar. So Kyrie has the ball at the end of overtime, and he slips. He's still holding on to the ball, and he gets up. He gets up while still dribbling the ball, gets from the defender. He shakes the defender. The defender falls a little bit. And then he has to do a fadeaway jumper to clinch the game. And it was just short. It was so close. If he had made that shot, that would have gone down as one of the greatest season opener game-winning shots of all time. That, with a 50-point performance like that, that's incredible. If he had made that, it would have been like, bam, front page news the next day. Unfortunately, the Timberwolves, they had a lot of great play. They blew an 18-point lead they had in the second quarter. Brooklyn only had an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter before the Timberwolves forced overtime. Looking at the Minnesota box score, Karl-Anthony Towns obviously led the way with 36 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. Pretty good stat line right there. And for Brooklyn, obviously no introduction right here. Kyrie Irving, who had 50 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 1 block. Great play from Kyrie Irving. Just need a little bit more depth when it comes to like their bench. A little bit more, because Spencer Dinwiddie was their leading scorer off the bench. So just a little bit more that they need to work on there. Obviously this year they're going to be like a contender for the playoffs. They'll be in the playoff race, but they're not going to be contending for a championship probably until next year when they get Kevin Durant back. Because KD is one of those players that can put you over the hump significantly. Now, let's go on to the Miami Heat versus Memphis. And obviously Miami won 120-101. Pretty interesting game when it happened. All these spectacular dunks that I was watching. Dang! It was so beautiful to watch this game. And for me, I was like, dang, they played really well. So I had fun watching it. And Memphis, let's take a look at their leading scorer, Jaren Jackson Jr., who had 17 points, 3 rebounds, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. And the leading scorer for Miami is a surprise, Justice Winslow, who had 27 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. Really great. I thought that, they'll play great. And very shocking to people, Jimmy Butler didn't play today. He didn't play that game. He didn't play a minute of the game, which was very surprising. So hopefully next time he'll make his debut. Now let's go on to matchup. Obviously when it comes to that, Memphis led by 8 points twice, beginning of the second quarter and end of the second quarter. And then Miami came right back, and then in the fourth quarter they were up by 23 at the end of it. Well, like when it comes to biggest lead, they obviously won the game by 19 points. So, hey, Miami's, like I said, Miami would make the playoffs. They would make the playoffs. So they just got to work hard. We'll see what they do, because Jimmy Butler definitely can will that team. Next one, I also saw this live. I was watching the Houston Astros game while this game was going on, because they had a bunch of TVs over there. So I was just watching all the games while people were performing on stage. Philadelphia versus Boston. Oh man, you want to talk about a game to watch. This was incredible. Let's talk about Boston's main scorer was Gordon Hayward, leading the way with 25 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Overall, pretty good for the man. And we go to Philadelphia's leading scorer, Ben Simmons, with 24 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. I think when it comes to Ben Simmons, he's turning into a, Eastern Conference LeBron, kind of. Starting to put up big numbers for the team. All he's got to do is just start developing that 3-ball. You develop that 3-ball and that jump shot, you're going to become better. So, hopefully, he'll be able to do it. We'll see what happens. So, I like what I'm seeing from Philadelphia. So, having fun with it. Sorry. Boston led by 8 points. That was mostly in the first quarter. And then Philadelphia completely tore them apart in the second half. They led the entire second half. That's all I'm going to say. They led the entire second half. So a pretty good game by both teams. Obviously, Philadelphia had the better team. And I believe Joel Embiid had to leave the game early or something. Hopefully he's okay. Let's move on to Dallas versus Washington. I saw the highlights from this game. Oh boy, man! Don't Doncic and Porzingis look so good? I call him Porzingis just because, man, KP and Doncic are going to be great. They're going to be a great duo. I like that this league is all about duos now. It's not about, having a Hampton 5 lineup. No. It's all about duos now. Bradley Beal leading the way for the Washington Wizards with 19 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals. While Dallas's leading scorer, 1 point away from a career high, Luka Doncic at 34 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Definitely great. And in Kristaps Porzingis' first game since February, I think about 2 years ago, I want to say. Or maybe last year or something, I don't remember. He had 23 points for starting with the Mavericks. So going from the Knicks as being their very star player to now being sort of like this co-star to Luka. I don't want to say co-star because, Kristaps doesn't need to be a co-star to be great. Well, I shouldn't actually say that. That's a blooper. Strike that from the tape. Anyways, he did pretty good when it comes to playing. Not bad for coming back on your first game for a long time. Washington obviously led early in the game by 7 points, and then Dallas completely overtook them since, what is that? Since the 3rd minute of the second quarter, they started leading and they never relinquished the lead. They had a 23-point lead going into the 4th quarter. Dang. That's dangerous right there. I'm going to say it. I think Dallas is a pretty good contending team. I said that in my video last night. So I believe that Dallas will be in that top 10 spot. They'll be competing. San Antonio versus New York. Let's talk about this one for a second. I did not see the game. I didn't have a chance to. I didn't even have a chance to watch the highlights yet, but I heard R.J. Barrett did pretty good. We're going to see how good he actually did. Really? Oh, wow. 20-point performance by him. New York's leading scorer, though, was Marcus Morris, who was supposed to go to the Spurs, but went to New York instead. Very unfortunate. 26 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 3 steals by the man. And for San Antonio, the leading scorer was, of course, LaMarcus Aldridge, who had 22 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 blocks. Pretty impressive by him. And I think San Antonio's got to make a run here. They can go back to the playoffs again and get that playoff streak. Now, San Antonio did have a 16-point lead in the second quarter, and they blew it. They blew the lead, let New York lead by 7 points in the third quarter, and then again in the fourth, early fourth, and then San Antonio went on a huge run that the Knicks were just done from that point. Once San Antonio got it going in the end, they won the game. And props to that team for doing really well. Now, let's move on to another great game that I saw highlights from. Utah Jazz versus Oklahoma City. Yeah, Oklahoma, are you mad? Here's the thing. I like how the Jazz are playing. I like it. I like what I'm seeing. They play really well. I think they are definitely an underrated contender for the title this year. They're really underrated. Nobody's talking about them. All they focus on are the big names. OKC, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 26 points as the leading scorer with 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. Meanwhile, Utah's leading scorer, of course, Mr. Spider Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, with 32 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. A very great game by the only Spider. Now, OKC had an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter. Utah actually had a 13-point lead, in the beginning of the first, like at the end of it, and then they blew it. But then they came back and rallied, and they won the entire game by 5 points, 100-95. So good job for the Utah Jazz. Hopefully you don't want to do that during the playoffs. They will be a playoff team. With that much talent, they've got a chance and that much cohesion. Let's go to a surprise game. This was Phoenix versus Sacramento. Honestly, I did pick Sacramento based off of what happened last year, but I was pleasantly shocked when I heard that the Suns beat them by 29 points. Sacramento's leading scorer was Buddy Hield, who had 28 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Meanwhile, Phoenix got it going from the gun up. Devin Booker, leading scorer with 22 points, 2 rebounds, 10 assists, and 1 steal. Very great game by Devin Booker. He played outstanding. And, Sacramento had them. In the second quarter, like almost halfway over it, they had an 11-point lead, and then halfway through the third quarter, they blew it. And the Suns led by 32 at the end of the fourth. Obviously, they won by 29. So, Sacramento, you got to work on it a little bit. You can't just sleep. You can't just think that these teams are just weak. Because, I think that, Phoenix is going to get like 19 games. Or maybe more. We don't know. We definitely know New York is just going to be losing. And so is Cleveland. But honestly, we'll see where it goes. And finally, the last game that I definitely watched at late at night was Portland versus Denver. This was a great game to watch, and if you watched it, props to you. The box score from this game, I'll talk about the leading scorer. Denver's leading scorer was Nikola Jokic with 20 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists. And I've got to say, I was pleasantly shocked at what happened in the beginning of the first quarter. 3 minutes in, Nikola Jokic picked up his third personal foul. He got 3 personal fouls in 3 minutes and had to sit out most of the game. On 23 minutes that night, he still put up a decent stat line and had a plus rating of 14. A 14 plus rating. He ended up with 4 personal fouls, but that's incredible. That shows that, he ain't afraid of nobody. He came back after fouling 3 times in 3 minutes and decided, you know what? 23 minutes, that's okay. Everyone else played 30 plus minutes on the starting lineup. I only need 23 to drop the most points of our team. Meanwhile, Portland's leading scorer was, of course, Damian Lillard with 32 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, and 1 steal. So, got some work to do. And honestly, I hope that Portland can still make the playoffs. They're my pick to be a top 5 seed, top 4 seed, because they're always a great regular season team. They've got to work a little bit harder. Now, when it comes to rookies, who was my favorite, rookie from last night, I've got to say, from the Miami Heat, my favorite rookie of the entire class played on the Miami Heat. I actually liked how he played, because I did watch the highlights from it as well after watching the game, and I was like, this guy can play. And of course, I'm talking about the man Tyler Hero. They call him Hero. 14 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, and 2 steals with 2 personal fouls, and had a plus rating of 10. So, I liked how he played. Honestly, he did play 33 minutes. He had 42.9% field goal shooting, 50% from 3-point range, and was 1 for 1 from the free throw line. So, he did pretty good. And that's a pretty good rookie debut. Now, honestly, if Zion played, honestly, he probably would have been like the best rookie last night. But he didn't. So, my so-called rookie is going to be my guy, Tyler Hero. Not my guy, because I don't root for the Miami Heat. I root for the Chicago Bulls. But I like this rookie class. This rookie class is interesting. So we're going to see what happens throughout the rest of the league. And thank you guys for watching this recap of all the videos, and I hope you enjoyed everything. Just make sure to go subscribe to the channel down below and hit that like button. And you know what? I'll leave a question for you guys up here in the top corner. Which team do you think has the best odds of winning the championship? Because obviously these questions are obvious. You need to answer them because we want to see, you know, where everyone's at. And also, we want to see with this, what team do you think is like a sleeper team? I'm going to post 2 teams from each conference for that one. For the contending teams, I'm going to post the top 2 who I believe from each conference. So you can just vote accordingly from those choices. Make sure you do vote. And as always, you know, have some fun. Enjoy your day. See you guys tomorrow.